Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast. And we start today with a song from Gilbert and Sullivan.
The soldiers of our Queen are linked in friendly tether. Upon the battle scene, we fight the foes together. Where every man is son, prepare to fight and fall it. The enemy of one, the enemy of all is. The enemy of one, the enemy of all is.
And with that slightly wonky last note still ringing in your ears, it's time for me to say hello and welcome to another edition of Musical Talk. I'm Thos Ribbits, the perfect combination of sublime and ridiculous. And I must say that I think today we're going to be talking about a number of issues where the sublime and the ridiculous have been combined to great effect. And that's in two very different kind of shows. A little bit later in the programme, we'll be talking about the wonderful new show I saw at the Edinburgh Fringe this last summer, called Gilbert and Sullivan's Improbable new musical, Less Miserable, which is a fantastically funny but also very effective reworking of the Les Miserables story with Gilbert and Sullivan songs. More of that later. But first, we're going to hear from our old friend David Herzog, who is currently appearing in a pantomime. It's his first appearance in a British pantomime, and it's fascinating to hear from his audio blog entries, the next one of which you'll hear very shortly, about his take, as an American, on this most British form of musical theatre. But I must say he seems to have adopted it like a duck takes to orange. And if you want to see a little preview of David in costume, you can do so on the Blackburn Empire Theatre's website, and on YouTube, because they have put a small trailer up and David is included. But I hear you say, what is the pantomime he's in? Well, he is in Aladdin. And as I say, it's at the Blackburn Empire Theatre. So, later on, it's Less Miserable, but now let's hear from David Herzog and his latest blog entry on Aladdin.
Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to part 2 of my trip through Pantoland, that strange British custom where we share that time-honored Christmas tradition of telling fairy tales with dirty jokes and cross-dressing men. Merry Christmas. We had a fantastic opening night for Aladdin not too long ago now, and near enough that these interviews have arrived for your listening pleasure. Today we're going to chat with more of the cast, including Ella Holt, who plays Princess Jasmine, Catherine Lunny, who plays the Fairy of the Ring as well as PCP, and finally we chat with Simon Relf, who plays Ebenezer. So folks, grab your favorite drink, pop your headphones in, wander around your favorite pub, close your eyes, and pretend you're enjoying opening night with us. On second thought, don't close your eyes. That dude at the end of the bar already looks pretty angry. Enjoy! Alright folks, we just come off stage from opening night and I am talking with our Ebenezer. This is Sir Simon Relf, well, soon to be Sir, I'd imagine at some point in his career. Welcome to the program, sir. How did you enjoy tonight? How did it go for you?
It was great, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course.
The opening night, of course, is one of those special nights. You never really know if it's going to go really well or maybe not so well.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of effort and everybody's on the verge. Rehearsal's been long enough and you need the audience to promote it to the next level.
Yeah.
And which can ultimately sap you of so much energy that the following night you're feeling a little run down, but then you build back into it as the audience participation grows.
And at this point we're still performing mostly to school children and school groups and things like that.
Yeah.
And we've got public performances coming up this coming Saturday as well. But it's good to sort of start with the school crowds because it's a lot of energy, especially if the kids have been energized and are participating in the breaking of the fourth wall things, shouting at the actors, especially at your character. And it's like you said, it's nice to have that to start to feed back off of, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't realize how important, I guess, the feedback from the children were. I mean, I've done shows for children before, but this is my first soiree into pantomime, and as much as I'm looking forward to performing for adults, because you get to say some things that will go over the children's heads and entertain the parent who's bought the ticket in the first place, but to have the feedback from a child that is just innocently responding in the way they feel, is exciting. It's fun.
Now, this is your first production since returning to the UK, is that correct? You've been in my home country keeping the home fires burning there.
That's right. Britain sent me back there to find out if you'd really screwed it up.
That's right. And what did you find?
Yes, you had. And so I had to leave. I didn't start performing or studying until I went to the US, which was, I was 24 years old. And so I hadn't sung a note or performed in any way, shape or form until I was 25. So it felt like I was behind the 8 ball, but as you well know, theatre, community theatre, performance, it's all promoted, maybe not in schools as much as we would like, but everybody's encouraging if they know that's what you do. So the plan was always to come home, and I never really knew when that was. And just circumstances brought me to a point where I made a decision that this was the time to come back. That was 2 years ago. And since then I have been working on my voiceover business and sort of trying to promote myself in the UK industry. And when Perennial Productions called my agent, brought me in for an audition, and this put me back on stage in a live performance, which I haven't done in 2 years. So it's great being home. I love being around people who get my sense of humor a little more and can feed off of each other when it comes to that humor. But the performance aspect and the rehearsal aspect, in many ways, obviously, is the same because it's theatre. But the verbiage, the titles, the characterization of how it happens can somewhat be completely different. So I'm still getting my feet wet in that way.
It's a heck of a difference because the last place you lived in the U.S. was Vegas, wasn't it?
It's Vegas.
What were you doing in Vegas?
I was there for 14 years.
14 years.
I sang at the Venetian for all of that time. And I was Merlin and King Arthur at Excalibur in the Tournament of Kings.
That's a good deal.
So it was a dinner theatre, and dinner theatre, as we've talked about in other conversations, has its own category. It's like cruise ships and solo shows, it's cabaret. You know that everybody quote unquote puts them into categories and believes that maybe they are a little substandard. And I was one of those people. When I went into audition for the Tournament of Kings, which was a private audition, they invited me to see the show first, and when I watched it, I'm like, I don't want to do this. But it paid very well. I got the job, and it opened up different doors in Vegas. And Vegas itself is not necessarily my city, but it has a purpose, and it serves that purpose well. And I was able to just perform and not have a real job outside of performing.
Surely, though, I mean, just thinking about it all of a sudden, I would say that dinner theater, that kind of dinner theater in the U.S., because you have dinner theater, which is people pay for a ticket to see a musical theater piece, like in Oklahoma or Sound of Music or whatever, and they might have a meal in the theater/restaurant beforehand. What you're talking about is more like the sitting like arena style with a meal, isn't it? And watching a show go on literally while you eat. Other shows like that are Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede, which is very famous and stuff like that. I think it's just called Stampede now. There's stuff like that. Buffalo Bill's Wild West show in Paris is very famous like that as well. So it's more what you're talking about. There's some pantomime aspects in that. Now that I think about it, America doesn't have pantomime, of course. And so there are, once in a while you'll catch glimpses of things where you say, actually that has some pantomime aspects in it. The sort of call and response from the audience, expecting them to... I assume that was that way with Excalibur. I've never seen Excalibur, I've never been to Vegas. But I assume there's that sort of expectation from the audience of, we expect you to participate a little bit, shout things at us maybe. Is that correct?
It does actually straddle quote, theatre and pantomime. Absolutely. For that reason. It is... the show opens and Merlin and the little person comes out, the jester, and they do it's a warm-up, and it's basically to teach the audience when to cheer, what to say, and And of course, like any audience, there is a portion of them that's all they want to do, and there are a portion of people that go, I'm not interested in that. I just want to eat and watch you do what you do. Right. But yeah, it does. I mean, it is an arena that's covered in dirt because the horses run on it, and my character at some point wore a 60-pound costume, and so there are aspects of it like that people would never even consider. And then, why should they? They bought a ticket to eat and watch a performance. So yes, it does straddle that line between theatre and pantomime.
Well, Simon, congratulations on a fantastic opening night. It's been a blast so far. Can't wait to do the rest of the run and catch up with you at some point down the road.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on the program, fella. Okay, so now we are moving along and we are talking to Ms. Catherine Lunny. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Have you had a good opening day?
Yeah, it's been amazing. Stressful, but amazing.
Stressful? Oh dear. Oh, stressful how?
Oh, just like with every opening night, where you're like, oh god, am I going to remember that bit? And I have so many quick changes in this show that
You do?
Yeah, like, because I don't quite fully know the script well enough yet. I am kind of coming off stage and being like, is it time to change? I've got to change. I've got to change now. Oh, what am I changing into?
Don't change. We like you just the way you are. But how's it been transitioning from a very traditionally short rehearsal process, sort of diving straight into the school's performances? How's that been?
It's good. It definitely makes it for quite a intense rehearsal process, particularly when it comes to things like the tech elements that you don't really get to know them until you're on the stage at very short notice. And then it does also become nice though, because once you get in front of a school's audience, they're so responsive and so loud that actually their energy is exactly what you need at that point to kind of ramp up your performance to another level and to kind of put everything into context. Things that didn't work in the rehearsal room, all of a sudden they're working because you've got an audience and they are incredibly loud and incredibly happy.
We hope they are most of the time
hope so.
anyway. What kind of work were you doing before you were working for Perennial? You not worked for Perennial in the past, have you?
I worked for them like 7 years ago. I did their theatre and education tour. Pantomime. So yeah, quite a while ago.
Which production?
It was Mother Goose.
Cool.
And I played the principal boy, whose name I can't even remember now.
Okay.
Maybe Jack.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
And you've worked for companies that sort of tour all over really, but are sort of not necessarily based up here, because actually you worked for Illyria, which was based way down south, weren't they?
Yeah, they're based at Land's End in Cornwall.
And what did you do for them?
I did 3 consecutive summers tours with them, so they tour outdoor theatre across the UK and the Netherlands, in which you perform. It's mainly kind of like National Trust properties, castle grounds. So I did their family show, which was The Sorcerer's Apprentice. That was my first year with them, which was incredibly difficult and hard and amazing, and I made friends for life. But we flooded the stage. Like we spent the second half of the show was carrying buckets of water, 80 litres of water, up 3 stories of steel decking to fill a bathtub, which then flooded the entire stage, which meant that, everyone talks about outdoor theatre being tough because of the weather, but regardless of the weather, we got drenched every day. It's lovely when your set starts to develop mould. So I did that for my first summer with them, and then my second summer I did Midsummer Night's Dream, in which I got to play Titania and Helena.
That's fun.
Oh, best. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Dream roles, dream company. It was brilliant. And then the third summer I did Pride and Prejudice, in which I played 9 different characters.
9 different characters?
Yeah, I played 3 of the Bennet sisters.
How on earth do you fit that onto a CV?
I don't. I tend to cherry pick, so I say I played Jane Bennet, and I think I say I played like Lydia Bennet. I cherry pick which one it's going to be best for each part.
Exactly, yeah. And so tell us about some of the roles that you're playing in this show as well, because you're being versatile yet again. Yep. So obviously playing multiple characters must be part of my forte. So in this I'm playing the Fairy of the Ring, which is the kind of traditional pantomime fairy who in Aladdin is the kind of aide to Jasmine. So Aladdin gets the genie, Jasmine gets the fairy. And I'm also playing PC Ping, who is a second part of a comedy double act. So there's PC Ping and PC Pong. What's it been like trying to learn the sort of comedic timing of that part? Is that something that is natural for you, or you've done before, or is this new for you?
So I've done quite a lot of clowning before, so the kind of the comedy style of it comes quite naturally to me, and the timing does, but then it's also that strange thing of I'm in a double act and I've never done that before.
Okay.
So it's working out my timing with Michael, who plays PC Pong, to try and ensure that we're both aiming for the same goal and we've both got the same rhythm going, because otherwise one of us can undercut the other and kind of ruin the vibe.
Yeah.
So that was quite a new experience for me to kind of sort that out in rehearsal and explore it on stage.
Well, in addition to that, you've had quite some meaty scenes to have to learn.
Yes.
For instance, the famous Who's On First routine,
Yes.
which is a classic American routine, and you do so well. But that does not come without lots and lots of practice.
Yes.
You've survived it so far, though,
I have
haven't you?
survived it so far. There's been a couple of scary moments where both of us have just dried, and I'm looking at him thinking, I'm pretty certain you're meant to say who's on first. Oh God, if you don't say that, what am I meant to say? And then I just skip to the end, which is probably not the best thing to have done, but
you can. It's a slightly flexible routine.
it is.
From
Yeah.
over the years. If anybody ever gets it word perfect, they're doing pretty darn well for themselves. But it's not easy.
It's not easy, and I have so much respect for Abbott and Costello. When I watched their version, I was like, oh my God, those guys, like the rhythm that they have and the characters that they have, that's what makes it so funny, that they've got such kind of the straight guy, the fall guy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I kind of want to emulate in our scene, is kind of keep that spirit. So even if the words go a little bit hodgepodge, you're going to get the same spirit and joy.
But we've never missed a word of it, as far as we know from watching from backstage.
Sure.
It looks completely seamless.
Sure.
It does. It does. I wouldn't lie. No, it's brilliant. But you've been having a good time overall with this company,
yeah.
with the show.
Yeah, it's brilliant for me. It's a really good challenge, kind of using skills that I already feel like I have, I guess. Let's say the multi-rolling comedy, things that I'm pretty comfortable with, but also pushing me outside of my comfort zone. So I don't usually sing solos, and I sing kind of a solo in this. And I love to dance, but I don't often get to do much dancing in roles, so it's really nice. The advantage of Panto is it really challenges you in all aspects of being a performer, which I really enjoy. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the program, Catherine.
Thank you.
I hope we get to do this again sometime.
I'd love to.
It's been swell.
Yeah, it's been really swell.
Okay, now this is very exciting because I'm talking to my daughter, played by Ms. Ella Holt. Welcome to the program, Ella.
Hello, David.
How are you? Are you excited to be here?
I'm super excited.
You have no idea how excited we are to have you on. So this is your first production since leaving drama school, is that correct? So that's pretty darn exciting.
Yes, I graduated in May and then got a job, 6 months after.
Basically, yeah. So where did you train?
I trained at the Hammond on their musical theatre BA honours course.
Yeah. Where are they located?
In Chester, so keeping it northern.
Yeah.
Because I didn't fancy London.
And by your lovely, gorgeous accent, you are
I
a
am
northern
the
lady,
heart
aren't you?
of Lancashire.
And the heart of the show, let's not forget.
Yes.
Because you are based here and this is your hometown. Is
This
Blackburn
is
itself
my
your hometown? Or
yes. I am a Blackburn girl.
Okay. That must be pretty exciting.
It is, yeah, because I went to high school in Blackburn, in Westholme. And then I've done loads of shows here as a kid, with like different theatre weeks. So it's nice that I've done like a full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it like to have sort of that support group nearby, family and friends and that kind of thing? Family have come to see the show so far, haven't they?
Any of the public performances, I've got at least one person I know come in.
Yeah, that's great.
It's like all the locals from the pub I used to work at are coming. My stagecoach team are coming, so it's just lovely to keep it local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's it like sort of diving into this as your first production? Was it scary, exciting? Was it...
It was different because you only had a week of rehearsals, which I'm not used to. So when I did Cabaret at the Hammond, we worked on it from October till January, so that was a long time. So I just wasn't used to the fast pace of it all. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I don't have as many lines as everybody, so that was kind. As we all know, I'm not until page 30. So that was nice. But it's just, I just didn't expect it to be so fast paced and it all to come together so nicely. And I didn't expect to be playing a lion head. a skeleton.
I was going to say, yeah, so you have been given more to do since...
Oh, yeah, so it's not just page 30. I do appear earlier.
If people are looking hard enough.
Yeah.
They're looking
you could
through the mouth.
Through the lion mouth.
Tell me more about the production of Cabaret that you did at drama school, because there was something very special about it, wasn't it? Who did you play in it?
So, Cabaret at the Hammond was just the best time of my life. It was directed by the fabulous John Young, who's done so many amazing things. Best friends with Samantha Barks. I played the role of the MC, which tends to be played by a man, like Alan Cummins and people like that.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. So we took it out of context of it traditionally being played by a man, because the role itself is actually so androgynous.
Yeah.
And nowhere in the script, when you read it, does it specify the sex of the MC. And there was something a bit special, because all the Kit Kat girls are all girls, and then a woman leading them. It was just a bit different. And comparing it to Panto, that's what I found really hard with this script, because there's so much to dig your teeth into it with Cabaret.
Yeah.
It's set in Hitler times. There's so much going on, whereas in Panto you're not given a lot to dig your teeth into.
Yeah.
It's hard to, because there's the ghost gag, there's all these different gags, and then so it's not really part of the storyline, but somehow you've got to find a character within that.
Yeah.
Which is difficult, because you just play the traditional Disney princess.
Yeah.
Whereas the MC, because I could make it my own, because it's never been done by a girl before. Well, it has, but never a show that I've seen.
It's not traditionally
No,
done that way
yeah,
at all.
exactly. So it was fun to make it my own. And what was so good about John Young is that he never says, right, on this line you've got to stand here, on this line go stand there. You're given the freedom to do what you want. He says, he shows you what the lighting's going to be like, and then he goes, this is your space to work with, which I just loved. The power.
Yeah.
It was fun. And the MC's quite fun, because he's a bit cheeky, because he said, this is your script, you can come on whenever you want and just sit and watch the show. With the audience seeing you. So I'm like a puppeteer above everyone else, which was a really clever way of looking at the MC.
Yeah.
And he's quite naive to what's going around him. That's why he sings the song I Don't Care Much. And then at the end it all hits him, and it was just beautiful. Like at the end scene, well, every director does it differently, but we had it where the stage was quite bare. Well, it was really bare. There was just scaffolding with the big sign of Cabaret. And we were all scattered across the stage, and then during the song it was like we'd been thrown on into the gas chambers. And we all took our shoes off, and we were all sobbing. Then we all got into what looks like the trains that they used to take them to. And then smoke filled in. And then I looked at the audiences to say, like, are you not going to do anything about it? Because that's what the people thought at those times. Like, you know this is happening and you're not doing anything about it. And then we all started screaming, and we all went off, and it was just amazing.
Goodness
it's the best of times.
That sounds special.
It was, and then he toyed with the idea of having the smell of burning in the audience. We were like, potentially too far, John. But it was really good.
Very cool. What's it been like playing Jasmine herself? This is a role that you've been interested in playing for a while now, isn't it?
Yes, well, I love Jasmine. I'm on Disney's books to be Jasmine, so I'm waiting for one of them to get ill over there so I can head on down. But it's been really fun. I like it. I like my costumes.
Yeah.
I like that I don't actually do a lot, but the kids love me the most.
Yeah, let's be honest.
It's a good feeling. That was Aladdin.
Yeah, I don't know if Chloe agrees. We'll see.
But yeah, no, I love playing the princess, because I'm a massive fan of Disney. Been to Disneyland Paris so many times.
Yeah.
So it's nice to play a Disney princess.
Yeah.
And the kids to love you for it.
And now that opening night has come and gone for us, are you well settled into the role now? Because like you said, it was a very quick rehearsal process. We got through it just fine as a cast, though. And we sort of transitioned very nicely into public performances, didn't we? Yeah,
what I find hard now is that sometimes, because we are tired, because we're doing so many shows, it's hard not to just rely on muscle memory. So going on stage and just, like, sometimes I feel like I'm daydreaming, and I'm like, God, did I actually just say that line? I can't remember. So it's hard to keep every show the same standard, because you're getting tireder and tireder, but you want every audience to experience the same show. That's a great mentality to have, I have to say. Because there are those in the show who keep us on our toes by perhaps picking on us. Yes, Callum often picks on me. I was thinking more Ian, who we'll hopefully chat with later on. both of them. So there's a moment when me and Callum walk on, who plays Wishy Washy.
Oh, yeah.
And every time we walk on, he tells me something different. And so at one point, I think yesterday, I missed coming on because I was just so anxious as to what he was going to say to me. I was like, I'm not going on today. I'm just not doing it. And then Ian in the chase scene, who plays the Dame, he always does something different to me and you.
Uh-huh. You say me, but he mostly picks on you.
Yes, but now you've taken to blocking him off.
Well, yeah, I am playing your dad on stage, but I feel a certain responsibility to be like, stop touching my daughter. Stop it.
That sounds dodgy out of context.
It's pantomime, it's fine. It's all part of the humor.
Yeah.
Have you been enjoying your time with this company?
I have.
Have you been enjoying the show in general?
I have. My favourite thing is the people.
Really?
I just love the people. I think we're friends for life. I love them. Yeah, it's just nice to come to work and not feel like work.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Aww. Well, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you kindly.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
It's been wonderful.
I hope to catch up with you again sometime on here. It'd be nice to have you back.
Let's do it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Tune in again soon, folks, for another installment of Panto Audioblogs. Don't forget you can still buy tickets for the show if you find yourself up north. Simply pop along to blackburnempire.com and you can purchase tickets there now. But as I mentioned before, most performances are sold out, so do get your tickets as soon as you can if you're in the Blackburn area. Also, for good measure, while I have your ear, don't forget you can still follow me on Twitter at DavidHerzog06. And yours truly has also finally started an Instagram page, so you can follow me there as well, which is at David Herzog Actor. Thanks so much as always for listening, friends. See you next time on the podcast. Bye-bye.
And there we are. That was David Herzog. And if you want to go and see Aladdin and you're anywhere near Blackburn, go online to book tickets at the Blackburn Empire Theatre. And don't forget, performances run until the last day of the year, that's the 31st of December. I genuinely wish I could see David in performance. I hope that perhaps you can. Well, now we move on to the second item in today's episode of Musical Talk. I was astounded recently to discover that an anagram of Gilbert and Sullivan is Dublin Gallivanters. Well, you might say, what's that got to do with anything? Well, did you know, and this is absolutely true, that in Dublin there were a couple of sisters, very famous in their time, known as Letitia and Naomi Overend, who every year won prizes for their Jersey cows, all of which had been named after characters from Gilbert and Sullivan operas. It's absolutely true. And it's one of the wonderful things I love about Musical Talk is that sometimes your researches can take you off in very odd directions. Well, you've probably gathered by now that Gilbert and Sullivan is very much on my mind. And there's a reason for that. Today's episode is going to be about the new Gilbert and Sullivan opera. What's that, you say? Aren't they dead? Well, yes, they are. But they're also immortal, and they have a regular presence at Edinburgh's Festival Fringe every year, in different forms. Sometimes it's a new production, or several, of some of their shows. But sometimes it's a variant, where someone's done something clever. A few years ago, you may remember that I raved about Gilbert and Sullivan, the musical. Well, one of the people behind that was Sue Ellerby, and her mother was so excited by that show as well that she went on to write another Gilbert and Sullivan-based show called Gilbert and Sullivan's improbable new musical, The Fringe Lozenge, which was a great hit 2 years ago at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Well, in 2019, Sue Ellerby was back again with a new show, an even better show in my opinion, in fact a 5-star show. It was called Gilbert and Sullivan's improbable new musical, Less Miserable. And I think you can immediately tell that it's a playful show. And you'd be right, because she uses songs taken entirely from the Gilbert and Sullivan canon and has created a new comedy musical parody of the story of one of the world's longest-running musicals, Les Miserables, as you had guessed. But to it she's added a Gilbertian plot twist, and by doing so has made it less miserable. And the wonderful thing here is that she has taken the story of Les Miserables and Gilbert and Sullivanized it, by which I mean that she's added lots of very funny jokes for the casual and the intense Gilbert and Sullivan fan alike. But she's also taken original songs from the entire Gilbert and Sullivan canon, unchanged, there's no new lyrics here, and plopped them into the Les Miserables plot. So, In a minute, we'll get to hear a conversation that I had with Sue about this latest musical, Les Miserables. But first, let's hear another song. So remember, this song, although it's from Les Miserables, is still an absolutely factory fresh, unchanged song from the Gilbert and Sullivan canon, called When I First Put This Uniform On.
When I first put this uniform on, I said as I looked in the glass, it's 1 to 1,000,000 that any civilian my figure and form will surpass. Gold lace has a charm for the fair, and I've plenty of that time to spare. While the love's profession were not, and questions are eloquent everywhere. A fact that I counted upon when I first put this uniform on. A simple coincidence you could ever have counted upon. The same thing occurred to me when I first put this uniform on.
Well, my name's Sue Ellerby, and I've written Gilbert and Sullivan's improbable new musical, Les Miserables. I say written, I've written the script, but the songs are all Gilbert and Sullivan songs in it. And I've also directed and produced the show at this year's Edinburgh Festival Fringe.
Now, this show is an absolute cracker in my view. I think it's a marvellous show, but I think you're very clever because you have, for all intents and purposes, displayed what the show is about in the title. But would you mind explaining what the central conceit and what the story of this particular piece is?
Okay, so the story, in a nutshell, the show tells the story of Les Mis, but using GNS songs, and is a parody of Les Mis and a parody of GNS. But the concept for it is that Gilbert and Sullivan are in an afterlife looking down on Earth, and Gilbert is bragging that all new musicals are basically variations on their own plots, and they're fathers of the modern musical. So Sullivan challenges him to tell the story of Les Mis only using their own songs, and he agrees, but only if he can make some twists to make it less miserable and give it a typical happy ending and change the setting from France to a fictional country.
Now, let's start at the beginning on this. Now, you had a show up here in Edinburgh 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
And that one took Gilbert and Sullivan songs, rewrote the lyrics to match a story which was heavily contextualised within the Fringe experience. I think
it was,
would be the nicest way of putting
yes.
it. But I remember when we spoke, because I enjoyed that show a great deal, I asked you, did you have any other ideas? And you said on that occasion, I do have an idea, but then you didn't say quite rightly what it was. You were letting it gestate, certainly on the record.
Yes.
So I know that was already bubbling around in your mind a couple of years ago.
Yes.
So what's been its development ever since?
Okay, so I thought of that idea a couple of years ago, and having brought one show to the Fringe, I said to all my family, if I ever think of taking a show to the Fringe again, dissuade me, because it was such a big effort to do. But then a few months went by, I started to write the new show and thought, I'd love to see this performed at the Fringe. So at last year's Fringe, I booked the venue and booked the accommodation, and then I set out to try and find a cast. And I have to say, the first, as it was originally written, it was a bit of a hybrid between Les Mis and GNS. And at the first read-through, I thought it needs to be more GNS comedy than Les Mis serious. Because some of the songs, I think the starting point was Sorry Her Lot, Josephine's song, which fits so beautifully in that setting where Eponine is on my own. Is that the one? Yes, it's on my own, isn't it? Pretending he's beside me. And I thought that just fits so well in that scene, which is there with a berry on. Yeah. And then from that, I just thought, actually, what could you do for that scene? What could you do for the other? And it just built itself around. But I had far more songs in when it started that I've had to chop out. And I wanted full verses of several songs, which I had to chop down. And so that was a shame, really. But I do wonder if the show would also work with complete verse of some of the songs and some additional songs, or whether that would affect the pace, because it is a very pacey show. It sort of flips from one to the other.
I can tell you immediately, I watched it with, we might as well keep it all in the family, because as we know here on Musical Talk, your daughter, Adeti, put on Gilbert and Sullivan, the musical.
Yes,
I'm friends both with her, but also with Josh Clark, who went on to play Gilbert in that production.
Yes.
He and I saw this production today, and the moment it finished, the thing we said was, that was very witty.
Good.
And I tell you what, it was witty through the original Gilbertian flavours, but it was witty because of your placing of those Gilbertian flavours and knowing where to place a knowing sentence for those people who know their GNS.
Right.
So I thought it worked. It had wit written through it. In one direction because of Gilbert, and in the other direction, if you like, in the Matrix because of you, Sue.
Yes.
So I think that you've captured what you meant to do marvellously. I am actually really interested, however, that you were able to sort of see at the sort of the early read-through. So when was that?
The early read-through was probably last September.
Oh, right.
So I
That
came
is an
back from
early
Edinburgh,
read-through.
started to get a cast together, got a few people who'd been in the previous show and said, can we just read through it and see how it falls? And at that point, there was a lot of singing and very little dialogue, and the pace of the show, you know, if you take The Sun Whose Rays and give it both verses, so it was that sort of thing, really extending some of the singing interludes. There wasn't much time left for dialogue, and it was just sort of a number of songs with a weak thread between them. So I had to sort of rebalance that, really, and make it more of a comedy. I suppose I had hoped that it would be a funny show, but there'd be elements like The Sun Whose Rays and there were several songs where it becomes actually quite sad and intimate, and that you would actually be moved back to think of both the scene in Les Mis and the scene in GNS, where those songs fit, and it would sort of be, it could actually be quite a pause and a sad bit.
You can get poignancy,
not just comedy all the way along.
Although I think you undersell yourself, because in the revised version, of a developed version, let's call it that, I still think you managed to achieve poignancy. In fact, funnily enough, Josephine's song is one of those areas where I think I've always found that song actually quite a hard song as a listener to enjoy, because it is about loneliness and pain and fear of those things as well. You know, it's built into the song. Actually, you know, people often say, and it's an easy thing to do, that, you know, Gilbert's not vastly interested in the greater emotional sense of his characters, and it's Sullivan who adds that. But it's not always true.
No.
You know, Gilbert had a proper social conscience, and you know, this is the kind of thing that people always now look back at Gilbert, as you know, as a kind of sort of typical Victorian. But I always think he's a very atypical Victorian, because he always appears to me to be on quite the edge of the radical edge of the spectrum of their certainly the social morality of it. You know, he very much believed that, you know, he was very much, well, you know this as well as I do, but, you know, Victorian society was very heavily negative towards women who may have transgressed sexually once. And he certainly wasn't. Quite the reverse.
No.
But we tread into darker grounds. Let us roll back. So you sort of restructured it, redeveloped it, and realised that the balance needed to be the case. But in a sense, having given it the title Less Miserable, you'd also given yourself the licence to make it less miserable.
Yes, exactly. Thinking of how to resolve everything at the end as well, with the typical Gilbert...
you need a topsy-turvy ending that makes everything happy. That's the basic point, isn't it?
And that was really how the title came about and how the show came about.
Although, funnily enough, there was a lovely little guessing game going on in my head as to how, because, you know, you follow the story of Les Miserables pretty closely. You know, it is more or less what people will, they'll know it.
Yes.
And then you know, in the back of your head, you're thinking, oh right, okay, this still seems to be heading towards the not that happy ending to that play.
Yes.
Or that book or novel.
Yes.
And yet you do sort of pull the cat out of the bag. If you like.
Yeah. And there's one other, when I was at Fringe last year, I went to see Gilbert and Sullivan Society perform Patience. Cat Like Tread did Patience, and the song, I hear the soft note of their echoing voice, and when I heard that, I thought, I want that in the show. I want Gilbert to reminisce. And I think so that became a later edition, which extended the show by about 5 minutes. So I had to try and cut back, but I'm glad I kept that in, because I think that was a beautiful Sullivan music, isn't it? Yes,
because I couldn't recognise it. Quite
interestingly. It's from Patience. Yes.
That's interesting. Because, well, let me ask you, were there any other constraints that you set yourself?
I wanted to have a song or some music from every operetta.
And that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yes,
there are references throughout. Now, some of those are easier to do than others, I guess.
Yes, well, Thespis is always difficult.
Well,
so Thespis ended up as...
Beautifully Blue the Sky?
No, Tripping Over Rocky Mountain.
Yes.
That one, yes. Which then was used again, wasn't it, in Pirates.
It's one of the few surviving bits of the lost Gilbert and Sullivan Thespis.
So that just became, that had to be a scene change bit of music, and Utopia Limited had to be a scene change bit of music. But other than those, I think I got songs in from everyone.
Where's your Grand Duke song?
Isn't that a tenor singers above?
It is indeed.
Yes.
You're absolutely right.
And that was one of the scene change moments. Yes.
Oh no, actually, I think that's Utopia, isn't it? Sorry, my apologies.
Not Little Maid of Arcady. What was it? There's definitely one. You're testing me now.
I am.
And I'm trying to think which one it is, but I'd have to look at my list.
But you also managed to rename some of your characters sympathetically towards their more Gilbertian counterparts.
Oh yes, every character had to have a Gilbertian character name, so that was challenging at times. So
a little hybridy in some cases, aren't they?
Javert had to be Jasper Murgatroyd and Jasper, and John Wells was John Valjean, and that was quite good fun actually.
And the audience appreciated that on the day I saw it, I have to say. They were lapping that up. And there's little gags, aren't there? I mean, it's... as people will know, it's about the Les Miserables, that is, the mid-19th century uprising in France. Republicanism versus monarchy. And of course you mentioned King Paramount, who of course is very much Utopia. There is a Grand Duke reference.
Yes, there is.
There are plenty of all that. So even the more obscure stuff is dropped in. My own personal favourite, as listeners of Musical Talk will know, is Radigo. It always has been. I think it always will be. I think it is a masterpiece in terms of his writing. And I had feared that we weren't going to get much, but we got some blameless dances, and there was a reference to Roderick. So, of course, it's not really a patter song, is it? But the fastest trio in the whole canon, which is It Really Doesn't Matter. Which fitted really well.
Well, I had to call the leader of the rebels Roderick, simply for that song to work. And I was absolutely sure I wasn't going to even change a single lyric to make the concept of what I had in my head work, because it would have been very easy just to change the odd name here or there. So yes, I had to make sure.
You've been quite fastidious, haven't you, actually?
Yeah, so Roderick had to be prominent there. And what I thought was lovely today, I think some of the people in the audience, particularly in that patter song, I don't think they'd ever heard it before.
Really?
Because I think when the end of the verse, when the matters, because I think this year we've attracted a non-GNS audience, we've attracted a Les Mis audience as well.
Yeah, a slightly more musical theatre-y, broader musical theatre, yes. I mean, I happen to subscribe to Gilbert's view in this, which is actually they are the fathers of musical theatre. Yes. But I accept what you're saying, yes, absolutely. So, let's discuss how... Because we're talking midway through your run, more or less. Is that
we've just done the fourth show, I think, and we have another... what day is it?
That's a very good Wednesday, I think.
So we've got 3 shows left, so we've done 2 previews and 3 shows.
Incidentally, that is very much a fringe thing, isn't it? Because I keep having to do it.
5 shows down, 3 to go.
Where am I in the week? I don't know anymore. Yes, because you measure your time out by the shows you're seeing, not by any kind of calendar date.
No.
But yes, how are the audiences taking it? Are you getting different responses on different days?
We have had different responses on different days, but generally very good responses, and it has absolutely been such a relief, really, at the first show when people were laughing at all the right at some of the things where I'm saying to the cast, this will be funny if you say it like this, and we've been in the rehearsal room thinking, is it really? And then when it's worked, it's worked. And there've been a couple of lines actually where we've changed the delivery because they weren't quite landing, so we've changed it, or we've put a pause in, so we've had to mix things up. The Maravedi line we changed today, and it worked a lot better.
Yes, because it's not a well-known term in its own right, is it?
Well, you see, some of these I think they are, you see.
Because of the gondoliers, of course.
But and then you're not sure.
If you don't have that immediate knowledge, then quite.
Yes.
So let's discuss this audience being a bit more Les Miserables, because obviously, as a GNS fan, I found it a rich, fulfilling meal with lots of different flavours, but all Gilbert and Sullivan, all Savoyard.
Yes.
And I must say, I'm going to speak musical theatre treason here. I've never been a great fan of Les Miserables.
Really? Oh,
no.
Okay.
I think it's very histrionic and over the top. I think. I hope people will forgive me for saying so. It'd be stupid to deny its popularity.
Yes.
But for me, it's an entry-level musical theatre piece. It's a marvellous thing to get people in. People go in it. They love the responses. They love the fact it's big emotion. They love the fact it's flag-waving stuff, almost literally, as indeed we should say you do manage to reference.
Yes.
But actually, I think it's the kind of thing you come into musical theatre on.
Okay.
One of it, like Wicked, I think it's an entry thing, and then afterwards you go off and find Gilbert in one direction and Sondheim in the other, and all points south and north.
Okay.
But your Les Mis audience, shall we call them?
Yes.
How are they responding? I mean, how can you tell the difference?
One of the some of the responses we've had of people coming out have been they didn't know any Gilbert and Sullivan, and they'd come to see this on the Les Mis ticket, if you like, and they come and say, "Weren't those songs fantastic?" And I think for me, that because I'm thinking this is a way of presenting GNS in a slightly different way, because the songs in their own right I think are beautiful songs, but if you take away I think some people might be put off going to see Pinafore or the Mikado or something, but hearing those songs in a slightly different setting, you think, well, that's a beautiful song, and they fit as well today as they did then. I think they matched, or for me, I thought they matched the scenes perfectly.
Well, this is the point I think I would like to underline. It actually felt very seamless.
Right.
What I didn't get was any kind of sense of crowbarring.
No.
And as you say, you've been fastidious in terms of not changing the lyrics. The songs we get in this are lifted straight from the original source.
Yes, yeah.
They haven't been tweaked, they haven't been twiddled, and remain therefore to be judged on their strengths or weaknesses within this new context.
Yes.
And they all fit. Now, I know you've been very careful in picking the right ones.
Yes.
Have any songs at any stage you've realised you plopped a song in because you liked it or thought it fit, and then on second consideration it turned out the jigsaw piece wasn't quite right, so you were having to hammer it in rather than let it fit smoothly?
No, I don't think so. I started from the premise of what is the scene, what might fit. For certain scenes, I had 3 or 4 GNS songs. I could have picked any of them, and there were too many really. Yeah. And I listened, and then I had my preference. For example, when Cynthius, who is on Marius, is going off to see Cosette or Constance, I thought A Man Who Would Woo Fair Maid would have fitted perfectly there as a trio. But we already had a trio earlier, so it was,
So you wanted a structural difference in that sense?
Yes, because you had to have a balance between the chorus, the trios, the duets. So I didn't want too many trios. I would have loved to have had one of the Gilbert and Sullivan songs. You've probably got the right technical description for this, but when you have the men sing a melody, the women sing a melody, and then they both come together, one over the other.
The melody, a counter melody, and the fact they all fugue, I suppose, almost.
They come together. And I didn't quite fit one of those in, but other than that, I think I had many of the other elements.
Well, do you know, one of the things I found myself pondering, and I think this is something that develops as one develops oneself. When I was a younger man, I got into Gilbert and Sullivan in my teenage period, not for me the heavy-footed plodding of pop music. I got into Gilbert and Sullivan when I was 14, 15, 16, and, never looked back.
Yeah.
Certainly didn't look forward. And actually, that's not fair, but they set me on the road to musical theatre, actually. They are my entry level for that particular love. But I was always less keen on the madrigals when I was a teenager. It was just my least favourite part. That's not to say I didn't like them.
Yes.
But for me, they were the least favourite part.
Yeah.
As I've got older, I have come to realise that they're nearly all fantastic.
Right.
They are beautiful, beautiful pieces. And I'm not generally taken by choir or a cappella singing.
Yes.
But actually, I think all of these are stunning. And I think today I found myself admiring the madrigal in this. In fact, there's certainly one. Did you put more than one in? Have I imagined that?
I'm not sure how. I think I hear the soft note is the most choral piece we have. Madrigal-wise, I'm not really sure we have a madrigal as such.
Did we not? Have I just imagined that?
I think you might.
Oh, right,
yes.
okay. My apologies, but certainly the what might be called the more sophisticated standalone numbers, which some often haven't.
Yes.
No, not haven't appealed to me, but have been less exciting than than the more wordy play stuff. I suppose it's the meaning, the sincerity, actually. Perhaps.
Yes.
There is, which takes us back to one of our earlier comments. There's a lot of sincerity in your show, and the fact you've been able to retain that, and in some senses enhance or show how clever and sincere Gilbert was able to be with his lyrics.
Yes.
In some cases, I think it's a marvellous thing. It's a good showcase for Gilbert. This.
It is, and I've said to the cast when we were rehearsing, because what I wanted to do was not make it pantomime. Here's a Gilbert and Sullivan joke coming up. Try and keep the characters very real and try and make them believable. And I said to read the songs, Gilbert's lyrics, as poetry really, and get into. And they do emphasise the character and what's happening in the show. And I think when you hear them with Sullivan's music, you couldn't imagine them having any other music that would fit those words so perfectly. And I think, I think this show reinforced that to me anyway.
And I agree with you, actually. That's because you can do that. There's one or two songs that you can sing to other Gilbert and Sullivan tunes, but you can't sing them to anyone else. Because because you can sing at least elements of I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General to My Eyes Are Fully Open to My Awful Situation, because the syllables fit nicely. There we are. There's a thought for you. And there's that's always been my imaginary Gilbert and Sullivan music. If I had the guts to do what you did, I've already worked it out. I would have.
What would it be?
I would have. I can tell you now. I'd have 4 soloists come in and all clutching their music, and then clumsily fall over. All the music falls to the floor. They all hastily pick it up, but they've muddled it up.
Right.
And then the concert proceeds. But of course,
they create a new musical.
well, it's not going to have a narrative. It's just going to actually show that some of the Gilbert lyrics fit some of the Sullivan.
Oh, I see.
And
Swap
you
the
can,
lyrics
yeah.
to
And
music.
so
Okay,
what it would do,
yes.
it would give you the lovely sense of knowing everything, and yet in a completely different
New
prism.
way. Yes. Yeah.
Copyright Thos Ribbits. There we are. Although I'm happy to collaborate, but
But that point about things in a new order, I suppose, I love it when I go to see a new musical and I haven't heard any of the songs before. So when I went to see Hamilton, I made a point of not listening to the soundtrack before, and it's lovely when you think, I just don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
I don't know what's coming next. And I hope in this one, because I'm sure, like me, if you go and see a GNS, you know what's coming next at every stage. Whereas with this, I hope it was the case that you couldn't predict what the next song was going to be.
I absolutely couldn't.
Yes.
And sometimes when you picked a song and you thought, hang on, that's the beginning of,
Yes.
it really doesn't matter, is this going to fit? Oh, it does, it fits perfectly.
Yes.
And the story is thus progressed.
Yes, yeah, I've got to die tomorrow and it
Yeah.
really doesn't
Yeah.
matter, and he's off to the barricade, and yes, that all fitted, didn't it? Yes.
It did, as they all did. But
Yeah.
as I say, you're right, I couldn't guess what, if you'd asked me beforehand, what do you think you're going to get, I would not have been able to
Yes.
imagine it. And then having heard it, you think, oh, well, it's obvious. There couldn't be any other choice, even though there may well have been one or two other choices possible.
Yes.
But you do play very nice little gags. There is the Thespis running gag, if you like. Every now and then one character is reminded of the beautiful weather on a particular day they remember happily.
Yeah.
And it is, oh, how beautifully blue the sky.
Yes.
And there's a riffle of appreciation. Well, there was the day I went in the audience, not least from my benches, as it were. And I like the fact you repeat that, so that's allowed to sort of develop and brew a little bit, shall we say.
Yes.
Lots of little things like that. That's the wit coming through, and that's the placing of it is your writing. And,
Right.
this is, if I may be so bold, it's a more assured piece than your last musical, I think, which is not
Okay.
to say the last one wasn't.
Right.
But actually this, I think, is such a clever idea,
Right.
beautifully executed, with thought and wit.
Oh, thank you.
And those commodities, particularly in the balance that you found, are pretty rare, actually.
Right.
I think-
Thank you.
So I was delighted by it, absolutely. So, do you have a favourite moment? I know it's a silly question, but
Well, I love that I hear the soft
Yeah.
note, and when Gilbert says, we did have fun, didn't we? And they reminisce. I do enjoy that. There's too many, I think. And the cast that we have, I think they just deliver the show so well.
they do. They know when to be light and when to be not light, actually.
Yes. And I think what I had to stop myself from doing, as we were progressing in rehearsals, I kept thinking, I could put this line in here, I could put that line, and I had to stop myself and think, I can't overladen it with Gilbert and Sullivan stuff. So yes, I just had to take that easy a bit.
The balance is exactly right. Is there a thing where you know that the audience is going to be surprised and you wait for that moment?
Oh no! You hear the audience laugh at something. So there's one point when Jasper says, "A policeman's lot is not a happy one," and that gets a laugh. And in the original, he had the whole song then.
Oh,
so,
right, okay.
So that had to come out. But then, and you think they don't know what's coming next,
No.
and then you hear the chant from behind the curtain, and then you get the second laugh, and then obviously the pun at the end.
Yes.
You
Which we're
just
not
know.
going to destroy.
Oh, we're not.
No.
Okay.
No. Oh well, unless you particularly want to.
I don't mind. But I wondered how you felt that went down.
I thought
Yes.
that was superb. Actually, it was the perfect ending. Actually, in that
Okay,
sense.
yes.
Yeah. No. I roared.
Oh,
As did
good,
everyone,
good.
because pennies were dropping. That's what,
Yes.
and the lovely thing, as far as I'm concerned, pennies were dropping at slightly different moments.
Right,
Because
right.
it's a good Sullivan reference.
Yes.
And played. Once again, I'm not going to say what it is.
Did
but
you see it coming?
No, I didn't see it coming at all.
Okay.
I knew there must be some resolution on the. What I'm only going to say is the dressing gown reference, because it's
Yes.
referenced a couple of times. And you think,
Yes,
right, this has got to pay off somewhere.
Oh, right,
I
yes.
could not see that payoff come at all, and I think therefore, if you like, you've had a as an audience, you go in, you have a marvellous show, and then there's this perfect little sort of golden button on the end of it. It's if you like, it's a gold leaf full stop.
Oh, right,
I think that's the way I think.
So I do enjoy knowing that's coming and thinking,
Yeah.
well, how is this reaction going to be? Yes.
And how has it been every night? Presumably
It's
something
been,
similar.
and groans, and we've got applause one day. Yeah, it does go down well. Yes, and occasionally I've seen people in the audience go, "Why is that funny?"
The Les Mis crowd, probably.
Yes.
So I've got to ask you this because this is such an accomplished piece. I think it's a 5-star show. I really do.
5-star?
Oh, absolutely,
Oh,
definitely.
thank you.
Absolutely
Thank you.
a 5-star show. Question is it going to be a 5-star show beyond Edinburgh?
Well,
Can it be a 5-star show beyond Edinburgh? You know,
Of
whether
course.
for you or for other people.
well, I'd love other people to do the show. So I've published the script available from Amazon, and I've said in that if any other society would like to do the show or anyone would like to take it forward, that's what I'd like to happen, for people just to get in touch. And already 4 companies have expressed an interest, having seen it here at the Fringe, and we did one preview show before we came here, open rehearsal type thing. And so if another group said we would like to do this, because it's a 55-minute show, so it could fit with Trial by Jury or with
It's a
Pinafore,
good balance,
or it could fit with your concert, at the end of the year or whatever. And so if somebody else picked it up to take it forward, that would be great. I think, it possibly could work as a longer show in its own right, but I'd have to give thought as to how the balance of that would
You'd have
work
to
if
keep
you
the pace
extended.
going,
Yes,
because the pace
yes.
is exactly right.
Right,
yeah.
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I quite
the
like.
arc is just right for the audience.
Yeah.
And
so
the story, yes.
I would love somebody to pick up the show and take it forward. And yes, I'd like there to be a life beyond the Fringe. We'd already sold out by Sunday, and every day at the box office we've had people
Queuing?
coming up, to try and get returns, get extra tickets. So there's clearly a demand for this sort of show.
Would you
Yes.
bring it back again next year, as there's clearly a demand?
No
comment at this stage, Your Honour.
And also I have another show in my head,
Oh,
so I quite like
you
bringing.
preempted me. This is
I
where we
think-
came in.
I think there's something nice about bringing a new show to the Fringe rather than bringing the same show back several times.
But it's nice to know that it's now in your portfolio.
Yes.
Because if you ever decided you wanted to do a double bill, that would also be a possibility, wouldn't it?
And you do feel that there were lots of people who wanted to see the show and couldn't. Wouldn't it be nice for people to see the show again? Yes.
Now, a little bird has told me, in case anyone's worrying about, well, hang on a minute, what are the copyright issues here?
Yes.
I happen to know that you've been in contact with someone very important about this.
Oh, well, when I had the first idea for the show, I did write to Cameron Macintosh Limited just to check would there be any issues about copyright or anything else that I need to overcome.
Which is very good.
It took a little while to get a response to that, and I sent through the list of characters, I sent through the opening scene to explain the concept, and I'd got to the point of thinking they're not going to get back to me and this isn't going to happen, and really did I want to do another show, and I put it to bed really, and then they got back and said no, we think there aren't any copyright issues, and I jumped to actually I did really want to do this, and I think that made me realise that I wanted to do the show.
It's odd catalyst in a strange way, isn't it?
It is, but I think it's all about the laws about parody and pastiche, that you have to be able to evoke the original but not take too much from the original,
not damage it.
Yes. So and I can't see how this does.
It doesn't actually. I think if anything else, I think it gives people an insight in both directions.
Right.
Because absolutely, it's an eye opener, I suspect, for the non-GNS fans.
Yes.
And as you in fact actually said is the case from your own experience.
Yes. Yeah.
But I suspect in some directions, which is not to say that Gilbert and Sullivan fans wouldn't have seen Les Miserables.
Yeah.
But actually, it is done. It's done cheerfully. It's done wittily. But it's not a satire. It's not a sneering thing.
No.
It's actually very loving, I think, in both directions.
Yes. Well, unlike you, I love Les Mis. So yes, it was a combination of the two.
It's not a kicking you. It is in fact a bit of an adoration into. It's a musical theatre love-in, which spans a century.
Well, talking about spanning time as well, a lovely moment happened day before yesterday where one of the characters in our show, who's only 20, it turned out his grandmother was in the D'Oyly Cart Theatre Company.
Really?
And she came to see the show, and so we had a nice photograph afterwards.
Goodness
and you
me.
think how that spanned the generations, really. Yes, that was a lovely moment.
Also, to have someone from the old D'Oyly Cart come and visit is a little bit like Gilbert and Sullivan royalty visiting.
It
is
was
it not?
royalty, yes. Yeah, we had a cast photo with her. Yes, that was lovely.
You see, I think that's wonderful, and I think that's still. I mean, let's go back to Gilbert in this show's opening line, that they are the fathers of musical theatre. He can prove it with a little help from you, Sue.
Yeah.
But actually, it's, here we are, 150 years later, let's say approximately, and you think, they're still in business, aren't they? And, well done.
Yes, thank you.
So, well, Sue, thank you very much indeed. That has been, it's a magnificent show.
Oh, thank you.
As I say, it's 5 stars.
Wow, thank you.
I'm now going to actually read out the quotation I prepared earlier, and I think I can safely call it witty and fun, unmodified rapture.
Oh, very good, very good, very good.
But yeah, I can tell you that it was the first show I saw today.
Oh, right,
and
yes.
I have been smiling all day ever
Oh,
since.
good, good.
And I think we can both attest to the fact today has been the wettest day in Edinburgh
Yes, it has,
for about
yes.
40 years, I
Yes,
think.
yes. Rain everywhere.
So
yeah.
to smile through that.
Good.
It left me singing in the rain, but that's a different musical you could try another time.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you, Sue. I look forward to talking to you about Gilbert and Sullivan 3, shall we call it? They're back, and this time
We'll
they're even
see.
More.
Yes, yes. Thank you,
But thank you,
Thos.
and good luck for the future.
And I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, it's marvellous.
Thank you,
Keep,
thank
keep
you.
writing them for me.
Is it too risky? Danger hangs upon the deed. The scheme is rash and well may fail, but ours are not the hearts that fail, the hands that shrink, the cheeks that pale. Ours are few. Oh, ours are not the hearts that quail, the hands that shrink, the cheeks that pale, the hands that shrink, the cheeks that pale. In arms of need. Ere I breathe to him, I owe my life is his, I count it not. My life is his, so count it not. And shall I reckon risks I run to services are to be done to save the life of such an one? Unworthy thought, unworthy thought. And shall we reckon risks we run to save the life of such an one? Unworthy thought, unworthy thought. They may succeed, who can foretell? May heaven help our home. May heaven help our home. Farewell. May heaven help our home.
Well, there we are, another song from Gilbert and Sullivan's improbable new musical, Less Miserable. It's a song lifted from The Yeoman of the Guard, the darkest of the original Gilbert and Sullivan musicals. And of course, before that, a conversation with Sue Ellerby about the writing of that fantastic new musical. I must say, I think Sue has surpassed herself. It was a 5-star triumph, and I enjoyed it immensely. And, as she said, if you wish to read it yourself or see the score, you can buy it for £7.50 on Amazon. And you can also buy the Fringe lozenge there for the same price. The wonderful thing about Less Miserable is that it makes a perfect double bill with Trial by Jury. So if you're part of a group putting on a Gilbert and Sullivan and you're looking for something to balance Trial by Jury with, I can strongly recommend Less Miserable. The show was absolutely adored by the people who were in the audience, and they weren't all Gilbert and Sullivan fans. Some of them were just casual walk-up, or people who wanted to find out more about this spoof version of Les Miserables. So it does appeal to a wide selection of people. And in one of those strange things that happens in the real world, and you think must have been directed by Gilbert, I bumped into Sue Ellerby only yesterday, as I'm recording this, outside the London Coliseum, the home of the English National Opera, where she had been to see the Jonathan Miller production of The Mikado, which incidentally I had seen a week beforehand. It is a small world. And as we were chatting on the pavement, she told me how a number of groups had indeed taken up the options on Less Miserable. It is a proper going concern. And in that conversation, Sue also confirmed that she's had an idea for a new one. Probably not for 2020, but we all have high hopes for 2021. So, it looks like Gilbert and Sullivan's improbable new musicals will be marching into the future. And so will Musical Talk, but not after the next few minutes with me, at least until the next episode, because it's time to say goodbye. We're going to finish today with another song from the Gilbert and Sullivan canon, which you could have heard in Less Miserable. And it's one of those throwaway, jaunty but entirely charming, happy songs about enjoying the food at a country fair, which you could have heard in The Sorcerer, and was used as the opening number in Sue's show. As it happened, I went to see that show with an old friend of mine, Josh Clark, who you may remember, and this is the circular way that the world works again, was Gilbert in Gilbert and Sullivan, the musical, by Sue Ellerby a few years ago. And as we sat together waiting for the show to start, he was suddenly delighted when he realised that the very first song being played was this song from The Sorcerer, repeated a few times until the audience were fully in, and so I hope that you can rhapsodise about this song as much as Josh did. So, until next time, goodbye.
Now for the eggs and the ham, now for the mustard and cress, now for the strawberry jam, now for the tea of our horse, now for the rollicking bun, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam and the rollicking bun, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn and the strawberry jam. Bun, bun, oh the strawberry jam, 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 oh the rollicking bun. Now to the back with the press, now for the eggs and the ham, now for the mustard and cress, now for the strawberry jam, now for the tea of our horse, now for the rollicking bun, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, and the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn and the strawberry jam. Bun, bun, oh the strawberry jam, 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 oh the rollicking bun. Now to the back with we press, now for the eggs and the ham, now for the mustard and cress, now for the strawberry jam, now for the tea of our horse, now for the rollicking bun, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam and the rollicking bun, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn and the strawberry jam. Bun, bun, oh the strawberry jam, 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 oh the rollicking bun. Now to the bank with me press, now for the eggs and the ham, now for the mustard and cress, now for the strawberry jam, now for the tea of our horse, now for the rollicking bun, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn, now for the muffin and toast, and now for the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn. The eggs and the ham and the strawberry jam and the rollicking bun, the rollicking bun and the gay Sally Lunn and the strawberry jam. Bun, bun, oh the strawberry jam, 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 oh the rollicking bun.
This episode of Musical Talk edited and presented by Thos Ribbits and David Herzog. Copyright 2019, except for the songs, where the copyright in the performance remains with Sue Ellerby and her company. And I'm extremely grateful to her for allowing me to play those songs in this episode. To find out more about the world of musical talk and listen to past episodes, go along to our website www.musicaltalk.co.uk or subscribe to us on iTunes and follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Musical Talk Thos. So I'm just going to get a level from you. What do you have for breakfast?
Oh, I had porridge and coffee.
Oh, the coffee's probably the most important part of that, isn't it? Particularly as all your duties are, well, not all your duties, but many of your duties are morning.
Yes. I mean, morning show's good though, because you can then get the show done and then enjoy the rest of the day.
I think that's excellent.
Yeah.